Gradients allow us to do fairly subtle shadings of color in a selected area for a number of purposes, such as creating the illusion of three-dimensional shape, or metallic highlight, or some kinds of texture. They're fairly easy to create once we know the building rules. We normally start by selecting the gradient tool in the Tools panel or toolbox. This gives us access to the gradient drop-down in the Options panel at top. Clicking the drop-down arrow next to the gradient itself shows the list of those built in, from which we can select if we want. But clicking on the gradient itself brings up the gradient editor box, in which we can start with whichever gradient and modify it, then save under a new name. In the editor box, we start by looking at the horizontal strip in the middle, called the gradient ramp. The house shapes below it are color stops, which tell it what colors are in it. The ones above are opacity stops, which tell it where to be solid or not. We can add either kind of stop by clicking where we want one, then using the controls below to fine-tune it. If the roof of the house is black, it's paying attention, and we can fiddle with it. With the new color stop in place, we click the color picker box at the bottom, and in the main color picker window, we choose a color in the normal way. Select the basic color from the rainbow strip, whatever color we wish, and then the specific shade from the box at left. OKing out of the picker, we can slide the stop left or right to tell it where the center of the color will be in the gradient, or we can adjust by typing the location percentage at bottom. The diamond shapes mark the transition from one color to another, and we can adjust their position as well. Ditto on the opacity stops. Click one or insert one, adjust its position as needed, and set its opacity at the bottom of the box if desired. Clicking on the drop-down allows us to slide the tool here, or we can type the number directly. When all is done, we go to the center of the editor, drag across, and add a name. And click New to officially drop it in the list. It's about the only odd part of the procedure. We go through the setup and then finally name the thing instead of the reverse, but it works. OKing out of the gradient editor itself, we can select an area we wish to apply the gradient to using any tool we want, say the elliptical marquee, drag to create whatever shape and size of selection, switch back to the gradient tool, of course, and then drag within the selected area. The starting point tells the gradient where to start, the end where to end, and the distance how to distribute the colors. And if we use any of the other gradient patterns, say the radial, again the start, distance, and end of the drag dictate distribution and selection. The angle gradient works in a somewhat similar fashion, but the specifics have the color swing round in a circle. The reflected gradient does exactly what it says, essentially doubling the gradient across a reflective line, rather like a mirror, and the diamond gradient, similar to the radial, except producing a diamond or square pattern.